are recording. Yay. Hi, Jean. How are
Hey,
you?
good. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for
so
having me.
good. Oh my goodness. I've been waiting and waiting. And I think when this comes out and people like press play, they're going to realize how much they've been waiting for this conversation. They
I
won't know it
can't
until
wait.
they're on, but I cannot wait. I know that people are waiting for this conversation to be had. And who better people to have this conversation than you and I?
Nobody
Um,
better.
yeah, I'm so excited, and it comes perfect. Always perfect timing. Divine time is always perfect time. Um, Over on the Sovereign Soul, we have been talking about energy over the past few weeks. And in one of the last episodes, I started to share a little bit about you by saying, I've got this amazing guest that's coming on, and we're going to talk about time and energy. Um, and I started kind of giving some tips and things like that, not too
Mhm.
much, because you're seriously the expert when it comes to this. I love being able to work alongside you and watch as these things come to download within you and how you put things together. So I'm so stoked to have this conversation and for people to learn more about you and all the things. But before we start getting excited, really excited, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience so that they know who you are.
Sure. Thanks, Jackie. So my name is Jean Tien, and I am the founder and creator of the Success Method, which is a trademarked proprietary method that basically supports women as they're looking to up-level their success, but without the overwhelm, without the hustle, without the forcefulness of what we tend to think success is, and basically dropping the fear that they are not able to achieve or to afford more success in their lives so that they can welcome in more abundance.
I love, love, love that. And people in general need that, period. But your area of expertise, really your hone in focus, those beings that you love to get out there and snag are more of the corporate mompreneur
Yep.
type thing.
Executive moms, exactly.
Yeah.
So my target, as Jackie had said, is really in the executive mom space, just because of the fact that number one, I am at one. So I totally understand the trials and tribulations that an executive mom goes through on a day-to-day basis, right? With having big ambitions, but with having 1.5 million things to do in order to get to where they think they want to go. And
Mhm.
then, but also more so because executive moms tend to have very complex energies, is where I'll go, because of the complex beliefs or the web of beliefs that they have, right, in terms of what it is that they're required to do. And so it's in supporting them as they tear apart or unweb the web of beliefs and thoughts and energies that they have collected over the years, and really helping them fine tune what it is that's important to them so that they can achieve a greater level of success, like dropping what doesn't matter, picking up
Yeah.
what does, and then moving forward with something that's much more aligned to them. And moms
100%.
just, and because you're a mom as well, and you're an
Right.
executive mom because you're the
Right.
CEO of your company, entrepreneurs are executives as well, right?
Well,
Um,
I want to stop you there. I want
yeah.
to stop you for just a minute and I want you to really go there. One of the things you know really good about me, most people are starting to catch on. I like to dissect to the point of no more dissecting. There's non existence. But I really want you to tell me who is an executive mom?
Yep.
What's on her plate? What does she do on a daily basis? Or what are some of those beliefs that they have
Yeah.
um, that they're starting to really question now?
Yeah. Well, that I want to actually tackle first, because the number one belief that's really keeping them stuck is the fact that they have to do it all. They have to do it
Mhm.
all and they have to do it themselves. So we're going to tackle that in just a minute. Now, in terms of what is or who is the executive mom, so you have executives in two different sense, right? I think when you think of executives, you tend to think of C-suites or very senior executives within a corporation, like a Fortune 500 companies. But that said, if you really think about it, a CEO of one's own company is
Mhm.
also an executive, because you're a C-suite of your company. So whether you're an entrepreneur or you are an employed individual that holds a certain title, you are an executive. And
Yeah.
so it's basically, in terms of what it is that they do, they do a lot of different things. They wear a lot of different hats, regardless of what their title specifically says. And I think it's really more about what do they do in terms of the responsibilities that they hold, right? They manage people, they manage the organization, whether it's their team or it is the organization that they're part of, or it's their business. And so when you look at what that entails, there's a number of minute details that go into that, 110 million tasks that go into that. And this sense of that they have to do it all because they're responsible for it. And then we tackle the mom part, because once you leave the job, if you can ever truly leave the job, right?
Exactly.
It's, you have the mom responsibilities, and then you have you have even more responsibilities there. Are your kids fed? Are they, have they finished the homework? Do they need to be somewhere other than school or home? And do you need to take them there? And it's managing. I don't know how many calendar appointments I've messed up because I'm not only managing theirs, mine, works, there's a ton of stuff that's happening throughout the day.
There really is. And you know what? Women don't give themselves an opportunity to acknowledge how much they do. And two, society is only now very, 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 very smallly, we'll say only now. I'll give you only now, but I'm giving you only now with a fine asterisk down here that says very slim, beginning, still a question, maybe hopefully it'll expand, but society is just now recently really giving, and I think the pandemic gave a lot of people pause. There are massive women movement of energy being taken out of corporate America because they are first, foremost, and always focused on their children first. But even that came to blows. In a woman's mind, sorry, I'm like scratching my microphone. In a woman's mind, they think they have to even choose. And they have the guilt around the choosing. There are some women that, nope, it's never been a question. My kids come first, always will. And so they gear towards women. But for some odd reason, women have been trained and taught and conditioned to feel as if they have to choose between the labels and momhood, and not even how to juggle it all. They're expected to juggle it all and figure that all out.
Right.
And only now are we really starting to have, acknowledgement of that, of just how much women are doing with a very limited, now this is where I'm quoting, another asterisk comes in, limited amounts of time that we have to be able to do all of this. Tell me a little bit more about the beliefs that women are starting to really tackle, some that they're not yet seeing that you really want to be able to bring, and that you do in your everyday one-on-one work with people that you bring to their attention. Tell me some of the things you want to bring to their attention.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think that it's really important because of what you said before, right? This limited amount of time. And I think when we look at it from our human eyes and our human mindset and everything that we've taught since we've been born, there's only 7 days a week, 12 months a year, 365 is, 65 days a year, whatever it is. Everything has a finite amount to this aspect of time. And I think it's so important to realize that when you think in those terms, it is very challenging to remove the the finite aspect of time.
Yeah, exactly.
The finite aspect of time away from this concept of time. But then when we really take a step back and look at what is time, time is merely just another energy that has been out there, right? Time traditionally, if you really think about it, it hasn't even truly been measured until 5,000 years ago, which if you think about the lifespan of Earth and humanity and whatever, it's really not that long ago. And it started with the Egyptians with the sundial and measuring, how long it took for the sun to go up and then to go down. And so then that's how they started measuring time. And then I believe, actually, if I recall correctly, that the church actually came in to really start putting in even more layers and definitions of what time is, which is interesting because if you think about a lot of what we do, it kind of ties back to what church has done in the past. But that side. So then but really at the end of the day, time is just energy. It's the
Yep.
sun, it's the moon, it's everything else that we do. And when we take that view, it actually gets to be a lot easier to swallow the fact that time is not a finite thing in our lives. It's
Yeah.
an infinite amount. There's a limitless number amount of time. And I think, at this point, you have a lot of people that would roll their eyes and say, yeah, but, I don't live an infinite amount of time. I have a certain number of years, people die. That is true, right? We all have a timestamp in terms of our physical bodies. But
Hmm.
I think when you look at it from a spiritual sense, that's not necessarily true, because our energy just transforms into a whole different aspect of another energy, right?
Yep.
Another aspect of ourselves. So when we stop to take a look at what it is we're all trying to fit into a day, the question is really, why do we feel this need to fit everything into a day?
Hmm.
And I think when you really look at and you speak to these executive moms, these very ambitious professionals who are looking to achieve their goals, right, by a certain period of time, they all say, well, I want to experience the luxuries of life. I want to feel what success feels. I want to be able to travel the world before I get too old to do that. And then the question is that, well, where do all these beliefs come from?
Exactly. It's like you're reading my diary. I got to stop sharing. Like, am I sharing on? You're in my diary. I want to travel the world while I'm still young. I
Yeah.
want to experience the, fruit of the labor sort of thing, the impact with my kids while they're little, doing all these extravagant, wonderful, amazing things. I want to do it in said time. I want to
Hmm.
do it right now. I mean, we might even like try and control the now moment, right? But
Yeah.
you're completely right, and there's something about that word ambitious, that really can f us up,
Hmm. Oh,
because
yes.
we are completely attempting to control now not just the experiences we're having, but the time in which these experiences unfold.
Yeah.
And when you are working on a spiritual journey, working in a spiritual journey, forming some sort of spiritual practice, you are going to come face to face and butt heads with the difference between the earth time and divine time.
Hmm.
And that's something that I know you've created programs and master classes and so much around to really help people start to grasp the true concept of what time is and how
Yeah.
to really make the most of it. I want you to share a little
Yeah.
bit more about what that
Yeah.
is.
And thanks, Jackie, for mentioning that, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions about time out there is not only the fact that they're finite, but that we can't actually work with time. But
Mhm.
then when we look back at, if time is just an energy and we are all just different matters of energy or forms of energy, we can absolutely work with time the way we work with other forms of energy. And it was only recently that I've actually connected the dots, because when we think about the law of attraction, it's a very similar concept, right?
Yeah.
We're manifesting more money, we're manifesting more abundance, and we're doing all of that through energy, through vibrations, right? And this quote unquote manipulation, not in a negative way, but this usage of energy to work with it, to call it to us. Very similarly, time is the same thing. We can
Yes.
absolutely manipulate the energy of time very similarly the way that we manipulate the energy of money, right? So, for example, you can manipulate time in the sense you can expand it. And it happens. And whether or not you realize you're doing it, you're absolutely doing it. Just think about,
Hmm.
people who go to the gym or who have to run. It feels like you hate it, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
at least I do when I first start. And then so then it's like, oh, I can't believe I have to do a plank for 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds feels like 5 minutes. But then it's only 10 seconds. But the experience of time is really
Yeah.
what is critical, because that 10 seconds you got in felt like 5 minutes. Whereas when you're watching TV, a half an hour show feels like it's like 2 minutes, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe that that's done. And so you collapse time, right?
Yes.
And then
It's
so
so
then
good.
there's so many different ways of working with time, that it's all about the way you perceive it. It's the shifts that you have in your mindset about how to work with it. And it's what I call the time bend masterclass. And this is what I teach in there. And it's just in terms of looking at where, like, how is this all happening for you, right? Because just like money and the energy of money, you can choke the experience of time that you have.
Yep.
And, that's collapsing it. And sorry, I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but the one thing that I want to highlight to everybody is that if you find yourself saying, I'm so busy, I don't have time for that, you are literally collapsing time. You're
Yeah. And
literally,
it's
it's
so
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
100%. You're absolutely right. And I don't find you jumping around. I think you're right where you're supposed to be in the timing of this. Did you see what I did there? Bada boom boom ching. But anyways, when I get myself choked up with some of these jokes that I can't do well. I definitely am feeling you, and I know what you mean with the law of attraction and the working with energy and really being very intentional with how you spend your time, that being something that then allows you to expand upon it. When you don't feel you have control over what you get to do in a day, that's where we give our power away, by showing
Yeah.
up and doing something we don't want to do. When you feel like you are not in control of life, that's when the days seem to be forever and forever and forever, and you're in suffering and you're in misery. And that's the stuff that we really want to tackle. My daughter is getting married this weekend, and a wedding is something, that's perfect for this topic, because you spend hours and hours and days and months really working up towards a day. And it's probably what, a half a day of celebration, but it's like you work on these details and you fuss over them and you worry about all of them, and then you play it in your mind repeatedly right before it's wedding week. How are we setting things up, who's coming first, chronological order, like all of those things. But my guides were so clear: get all this stuff out of the way, because the intention come Saturday morning is to do exactly what you're speaking to people on, and to completely wipe out energy in such a way where it's just this moment that is existent. And when we can create a space where it's just this moment that's in existence, we go through our day much slower. We go through our day much more intentional about where we are, what we're seeing. How many people float through life? They don't even see half the journey. They don't get to smell the flowers, so to speak. They don't get to, see the beauty that's all around them, because they're moving from one thing to the next. And with this wedding coming up, it's one of the things that my guides were very, very clear on. One kid, one daughter. You know what I mean? Like, one daughter, we get to do this mom of the bride thing once, and we really want to enjoy the day. And I know it's not just weddings where people want to enjoy themselves. They want to enjoy their day every day.
Yeah.
So without giving too much of this masterclass, because we are really going to start telling people where to go to get it, where to go to find it, how to start to experience it for themselves, without giving too much of the details away, can you give me a little bit more information on the bending of time? I just hear my audience going, bending time. Oh, this feels sci-fi. Like, talk about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when my guides shared it with me, when I downloaded it, I was like, bending time, like, what are we going back into,
You're on Star Wars. You're on the
or
ship.
something like that? That's kind of crazy, right?
Right.
But then when they started to explain the concept, I was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense, because the bending of time is not. So here's where I get a little upset when people say, like, oh, it's time management. No, you don't manage time. If you're managing time, it goes to exactly what you were saying. You bend time, right? You bend time so that it works with what it is that you're looking to do. And so the bending of time is literally how to work with energy. But in order to gain the time that you're looking to gain, or to collapse the time, that you're looking to do, although I think most people would want to expand upon the time, right? So that they feel like they have more, or they can experience more of what it is that they're looking to experience. I think that, though, in order to do that, it's first really important. Like, I will say the course is focused on the beliefs that you have of time, Because if you constantly go back to this concept that time is finite and that time is, and that time is set, it's very hard for you to come in to actually think that you can bend time. So this
Mhm.
energy of belief has to be very much in alignment in order for the concepts to work. And then once you have that concept down, then it's in looking at the ways that you can actually work with time to expand upon it. So like, for example, one of the things I wanted to share is that as you were talking about the wedding, it's almost like, I don't know about you, but when I look back on my wedding pictures, I'm like, that happened. I don't even remember that
Yeah.
happening because I was
Yeah.
so lost, in space. And as kind, and it's not like because I was drunk. It was really because like my mind was everywhere else. Like it
Yeah.
was just whirling around me. And it's almost like when you are present in the moment and intentional about being in that moment, it's like you are that picture, right?
Mhm.
You don't
Mhm.
need the picture because you have it now. You
Yeah.
don't have to look back on your picture in order to remember what happened at the wedding. You have it. You're intentional about everybody you meet, what you're intentional about the things that you're doing. And you remember the details that, like, I don't remember my details, like a lot of
Exactly.
them,
Yeah.
and I didn't enjoy it. And it went by, like you said, like in an instant.
Yep, it totally did. And that's
Yeah.
something that I'm very mindful of. There's so many aspects of this. It's cool because, we get to talk to the guides and I say to my guides, okay, I don't want to miss this. Like I want to really relish in my twins, looking dapper, and my son Jake, who I just saw in his tux for the first time in advance, like they're fitting it. And I'm just like, holy cow, like where did this 12 years go? Like he's
Yeah.
12 years old. Where did 12 years go? But when we're very intentional about energy meaning how I show up and participate in the everyday events, the big ones and the small ones, my intention helps me to not just remember everything, but soak up what's going on.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, there'll be details that aren't remembered in any event. But what we really want to walk away from, and even, I'm sure, again, I hope I'm trying so hard not to give away any details of your program and stuff. But I think really what we're going to get to after examining what our beliefs are about time, after examining how we connect with energy and how we can manipulate it in a good way to give us more of what we desire, we're not actually looking for time. We're not looking for time, much like we're never really looking for money. I know everybody's gasping right now. We're not really looking for money. We're looking for the joy that exists in these moments. We're looking for the happiness. We're looking for the connections. We're looking for the fun in the experience. That's what we're
Yeah.
looking for. So when we can be very conscious and, do programs and master classes such as yours and invest in our spiritual growth, maturing and developing, these are things that we can really do, whether we're executive moms, stay-at-home moms, moms to be. We can really start to show our children how to enjoy the simple, quote, simple things of life, that
Mm-hmm.
really can gain our kids
Yeah.
satisfaction. You've got children that are so disconnected with this masking stuff that's been going on, with the isolations that have happened, whatever side you're on, there's still a disconnection that's been
Yeah.
going on. And we really want to be able to support our children with making that aligned connection to their inner being, first, foremost, and
Yeah.
always. But
Yeah.
then, of course, to how to show up in this world and work the world, because that's what we're here for. We're not here for
Yeah.
it to work us.
Right.
Trust me,
Yeah.
I know you and I both know there are days
Yes.
when we would question that statement, but we really are here to work the world. We're here
Yeah.
to create within this space.
Yeah.
And when you can gain the knowledge that Jean's about to smack down on time and how to bend it, you are going to be so much more prepared
Yeah.
and expanded in your knowledge of how to really show up and make the most of the time that you
Yeah.
have here, because it's so short and
Yeah.
it's such a gift, it's such a blessing. But it is definitely an experience that is, like you said, stamped with an end date. And we
Yeah.
want to do it as much as we can while we're here.
Yeah. And I think when you learn to be intentional, which is really a key to time bending, right? It's when you learn to be intentional with everything that you are. Like, it's not, if you think about it, it's not just about the wedding, but then when you have kids, like what you were saying before, I actually had a very similar experience when I was just looking at some pictures of my son who's now 10 years old, almost as tall as me. But when he was 6 years old with, my daughter who was just like a baby at 1 or 2 or something like that. I look back and I'm like, wow, where did this time go? Right.
Hmm.
And it's amazing because then you start to think that, okay, well, the executive moms out there, they're missing this,
Yeah.
right? Because they're trying not to miss this, because they're trying to make their lives better for their family, and to do that they work harder, and they have their own goals that they want to achieve. Now, the thing is that when you are rushing here and rushing there,
Mm.
and you're, rushing this and that, you're never, you're just, it's almost like you're that character in the movie, and the movie just flies by you and you're just standing there. It's like you're standing there, but then this whole life passes by you, and then the
Yeah.
next thing you know, you are basically done with the movie. You don't have anything else, but then you have nothing to remember because everything flew by,
Yeah.
right? And then that's where I think this fear of missing out comes in, because when you have this fear of missing out, like,
Hmm.
you're trying to do it all, but you're actually missing out. Like, you're
Right.
actually missing out because nothing is being done with intention.
Mm-mm.
Everything is just done.
Yeah.
And the experience of what it is that you're doing hasn't been fully absorbed.
Embodied 100%. And no
Right.
picture that you see is going to help spark that. It's kind of like at my wedding, my mom my parents, I should say, I always give credit to my mother. Don't we always do that? It's like mom did this. But dad was there too, right? Um, this Venetian table, and there was like ice sculptures, and like, where was I for any of that? I don't remember any of that. There were cookies. I didn't get a cookie. I honestly didn't even have a piece of wedding cake because it was
Wow.
just we cut a fake one, and made a to
Yeah.
do about it for pictures, but we
Yep.
actually never tasted the wedding cake. It was sheet cakes in the kitchen, and it was like all of what we did, we sit back and we're like, I couldn't be six people to be in
Yeah.
all these places at one time.
Yeah.
And so I really, and I know you do as well, especially when it comes to tender things like experiences with our spouses, experiences with our parents as they age, experiences with our children as they grow. We really want to be all in. We
Yeah.
want to be all in. And what that means is we want to be present.
Yeah.
And I know that your masterclass is really going to show people how to be more present. And by being present, bend time to their favor so
Hmm.
that they can experience things they intend to want
Yeah.
um, happiness from, and joy from, and connection with, and get through without having to sweep under the carpet the stuff we have to do. Like, there are things we, quote, have to do, and not all of it's going to be pleasing,
Yeah.
but we've got to still get through it. And
Yeah.
it's going to really help people manage things, I feel, energetically way more better, way
Yeah.
more better. That's a thing. That's a
Yeah.
phrase. Way
Yeah.
more
And
better.
even in the physical realm, it helps. What I've realized since I've been doing my own work too, because I always do my own work as well, is that you have this concept of I don't have enough time. But when you actually start to list everything down of what's important, it's
Hmm.
not so much you don't have enough time. It's just more about you haven't prioritized, you haven't sat down, you haven't figured out what was
Yep.
important to you to do,
Hmm.
right? And what it is you think you have to do, but you don't really have to do. And you
Hmm.
realize actually how much time you do have. And
Yeah.
it's just how you use the time as well. So again,
Yeah.
going back to being intentional, going back to being in the present, going back to, figuring out what it is that you want to actually truly gain from the experience that you're having today, right now,
Right.
etc.
Right.
That's how this whole time bending aspect really works. It's not, yes, it's magical, it's energetic, and we do have to have integrity when we're using it, but at the end of the day, it's not that woo woo, or it's not that like
No.
You know, it really is a really good combination of human experiences with understanding how energy works so that you
Right.
can actually create a situation you want to experience, like to be
Right.
in, right? That works
So
for
much
you.
more. Yeah, 100%. So much more tangibility.
Yeah.
That's what people need, most especially when we're feeling like we are more anxious now than ever. And, you've got so many courses already in existence that people are going to be wanting to snag from you, but so much in the pipeline as do connect more and more with people, executive moms who are showing up and being vulnerable now more than ever with what they're struggling with. And even better, what they're no longer wanting to struggle with, that they just need a little bit of support and how to figure out how to get out. I got myself into this, but I'm a proud woman who knows that I can get myself out of it because I can do all these things. Surely I can figure this out too.
Right.
We
Right.
cannot undermine the mental health aspect to all of this.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. There's no contract that Source let you sign that says, sorry, Jean, sorry, Jackie, the two of you are on your own and cannot ask for help. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. And so we have to remember to show up for ourselves as women first and foremost before we can even attempt to show up for our children or our employers. We have to show up for ourselves, and in doing so, learning things like this, we're going to thrive. We're going to really recognize that we have always been able to manage it. We just needed to tweak a few things. So
Yes.
tell some friends. I have a question for you. They're actually
Yeah.
asking me to question you this before I let
Okay.
you start to tell everybody where they can find you. I'm trying to ask this question differently every time I have a guest, every time I host someone new, because I don't want it to sound repetitive. But by telling people this every time, it's going to be, how do you connect to, give me a description for the sovereign soul. What is your description of a sovereign soul?
So that's a really good question. And I have to pause to think. So feel free to edit this out, the pause. But I think for
good.
me, the sovereign soul, it's interesting because it's still interconnected with others, but it is
Mhm.
very much in staying in our own, I don't want to call it lane because it's so narrow, but in our
Mhm.
own space, in our own
Yeah,
energy. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
it
And
totally
then
does.
so it's like, and it's really interesting because as we've evolved and as I've personally grown, what I have started to see more of is how to stay in my own space and not to start to focus on like, yeah, people can stand there and, they can hear this and they can say like, oh my God, she's cuckoo for cocoa. Like, how do you time bend? That's not real.
Mm,
But I know it's real. I've seen it work. I've felt it. I know. And so this is what my soul is calling. And this is what my soul is, has experienced and can share. But yet at the same time, the interconnectedness of it is that we all experience these. We all can benefit. We all share, right? So even though we're different, we're still the same. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
unique in our own
Yeah.
right, but still very much one. I love
Mhm.
that. I love that. So how can all my friends find you, connect
Yeah.
with you, and work with you?
Sure. So for the Time Bend Masterclass, there will be a link, I think, in the show notes, right, Jackie?
Okay.
And then
Yes.
also they can find me on my website, which is jeantien.com, super easy. And then also I have a podcast too that we really explore different concepts of authenticity and success called Being Unapologetically Authentic. And it
Mm,
really it doesn't dive into as much as we've talked about today with regards to energy, et cetera, but we're really looking at who we are, how to
mm,
find our authentic selves, and then also how to define our success. Because at the end of the day, I think as ambitious individuals, that's what we're all
yep.
looking for.
Yeah, for sure. So good. Thank you so much for coming on
Thanks for having
and
me. This was
being
fun.
a part. It was so much fun. I know in the
Yeah,
beginning, like, I don't
loved
send
it.
over questions in advance. Everybody's forced to quote wing it, but this is what happens because the energy holds a space
Mhm.
for our connection, and it just
Yeah.
flows, and it does so beautifully. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I'm so excited for everything that people are going to be able to gain, not just from this conversation, but from working with you in the future. So I look forward
Thank
to
you.
hearing back from you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This ends another episode of the Soul